Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Angela with the River Community Church, and I just wanted to do some story time with you guys. I know your moms and dads are probably really busy and trying to get some things done around the house, and I thought this might be a good time for me to connect with you and just maybe tell you a couple of stories. And I have a book that I want to share with you today. This is my first time that I've done this, and it's going to be called Story Time with Miss Angela. Now, before I get started, when my kids were little, I have two, Joshua and Rebecca. Joshua is now 27 and Rebecca is 24. But when they were little, they loved for their mommy to read them stories and to tell them stories about when they were babies or about when I was a little girl. So I'm going to do that with you guys. First, I'm going to read you, first I'm going to tell you a little story about my kids, and then I am going to go and read you a story that happened to be my son's favorite. My daughter loved it too. First of all, this is some pictures of my kids when they were little. I'm going to try to fix it so you can see it without the sun glaring on it. This one up here is when Joshua, when he was in kindergarten and he was in a children's Christmas musical. This is him when he was about 5 years old. This is the last time that he had to wear what he called Santa suits because his grandma and his Aunt Beth were always buying him clothes with knickers, and he hated it. Also, I had a friend that did it too, but he loved it. Miss Ellen made sure that my kids were well dressed as well as their grandparents, and of course, us too. But this is a picture of when both kids were little. There's Joshua, he's about 3.5, and there's Rebecca, she was probably about 6 months old. Here's Joshua with his first little girlfriend. That was when he was in kindergarten, and it was Thanksgiving, and they were dressed up. They would not like those costumes now, for your parents will understand why, because they're dressed up as pilgrims. But that's a whole nother story. Now, here is Rebecca when she was a little bitty thing. She used to love to wear bonnets. Joshua hated to wear hats, but Rebecca loved to wear bonnets. And see that little bouquet on her hand? A friend of our family named Miss Katie, she would always give us the most beautiful flowers. And she made this flower corsage for Rebecca when she was a baby. And we had to keep putting her hand down because she was trying to eat the flowers. I bet sometimes when you were little boys and girls, you did the same thing. Then when Rebecca got older, Miss Dale Lassiter with Dale's Florists used to make beautiful corsages for her. Tell your mommy and daddy that they need to go to Miss Dale's Florist because she does a beautiful job. That's Todd, Pastor Todd and I when we were young. I think it was right after Becca was born. And then here's a picture of Rebecca the day, actually I believe that might have been the day she was born or the day after. Joshua loved his baby sister, and in just a moment I'm going to tell you a story about that. Here's Rebecca when she was teeny tiny. We had to hold her up to take that picture. And then here is a picture of her when she was probably about 18 months old. So there she is with her cowboy hats. Our kids used to love to play dress up when they were little. Did y'all used to play dress up, or do you still play dress up all the time? Now, the story I want to tell you about Josh and Rebecca is when Rebecca was a tiny baby. I had just come home from the hospital from having Rebecca, and I was in the living room. Pastor Todd was at the church working, and I had fallen asleep. Rebecca had been in her her bassinet, which had wheels, and she was right beside the sofa where I was laying down resting because I just came home from the hospital from having her. And I woke up, and when I woke up, I looked around, and the bassinet was gone. I could not find Rebecca anywhere. The bassinet was gone. And so I looked all over the house. I thought, oh, did I leave her in the bedroom? Did I leave her in the bathroom? Did I leave her in the kitchen? Because whenever I'd go a different place, I'd stroll the bassinet with me since it was on wheels. And I went all over my house and I could not find Rebecca anywhere. And I started to panic, and I called Pastor Todd and I said, honey, I think somebody has broken in the house and kidnapped our baby. Wouldn't your parents be scared? And so what happened is the next thing, I'm just so frightened. And so I walk into Joshua's bedroom because Joshua was supposed to be taking a nap. So when I walked into Joshua's bedroom, I opened the door. I didn't want to be loud because I wanted to make sure I did not wake him up from his nap. And I opened the door and I peeked inside, and there was the baby. The bassinet was pulled up to Joshua's bed. And Josh is looking over the bassinet, looking at her, and he said, I love my baby. I love my baby sister. And she was just grinning at him. And she was tiny. She started smiling very, very early. And just grinning at him. And he was just looking at her like he adored her. And I just said, Joshua Brady, what have you done? You scared your mommy to death. And he goes, Mommy, didn't you know I was just babysitting? So Joshua was babysitting his baby sister at 3 years old, he thought. Now, I want to show you a picture of my Joshua now. This is Joshua right here, and that's his pretty little girlfriend, Sarah. Isn't he handsome? He looks like one of the disciples during Jesus' time with his beard, doesn't he? So there's Joshua. And this is Rebecca. And Rebecca's really pretty. This is my beautiful daughter, Rebecca. And Rebecca sings. And so these are the children I was telling you about. Now they're all grown up, so I don't have any little children to read to anymore. Now I'm going to read you a story that my kids loved, especially Joshua. And if Joshua watches this video, he is probably going to cry because he loves this story so much. And it is called Love You Forever. Now, I want to tell you that your mommies and daddies love you the very way that this lady loves her baby. Okay? And this is Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch, illustrated by Sheila McGraw. And I think Joshua loved it because he could really relate to the little boy in the story because he was very mischievous. He wasn't a bad boy. He was a very good boy, but he was very adventurous. And this book was given to me right before Joshua was born. It was given to me on October the 18th by Ann Kovac in Orangeburg, South Carolina at New Hope Baptist Church. And Joshua was born a few days later on October 25th. And here's how the story goes. A mother held her new baby and very slowly rocked him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And while she held him, she sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And I think Joshua liked this because the mommy had red hair. And that's the mommy and the baby. Now, the baby grew and he grew and he grew and he grew. And he grew until he was 2 years old, boys and girls. He grew and he ran all around the house. And he pulled all the books off the shelf. And he pulled all the food out of the refrigerator. And he took his mother's watch and he flushed it down the toilet. And sometimes the mother would say, this kid is driving me crazy. Has your mommy ever said that? I know I have. And this is him. Boys and girls, one time Joshua pulled a chair up to the counter. He saw that there was a cake on the counter. He was 18 months old. And he pulled a chair over to the counter. And he climbed up on the counter. And he pulled the cake down and was eating on it. Oh, he got in trouble. But at night, when that 2-year-old was quiet, she'd open the door to his room. Even after he'd flushed his watch down the toilet, even after he did all these crazy things, she crawled across the floor. She looked over the side of his bed, and if he was really asleep, she would pick him up and rock him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And as she rocked him, she would sing, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And look, that's the mommy. She had crawled across the floor to make sure that that 2-year-old boy was not asleep. And then she rocked him. Now, that little boy, he grew and he grew and he grew and he grew until he was 9. And he never came in for dinner. And he never wanted a bath. I bet he smelled really bad some days. And when his grandma visited, he always said bad words. And sometimes his mother wanted to sell him to the zoo. Look at that. That's that boy. That same boy that was a baby, and then he was 2, and now he is 9. All right. But at nighttime, when he was asleep, that mother would quietly open the door to his room, and she would crawl across the floor and look up over the side of his bed. And if he really was asleep, that mother would pick up that 9-year-old boy and rock him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And as she rocked him, she would sing, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. See, that's the mommy rocking that 9-year-old boy. But watch this. And the boy, he grew and he grew and he grew and he grew and he grew until he was a teenager. And he had strange friends and he wore strange clothes and he listened to strange music. And let me tell you, that's what teenagers do. And sometimes that mommy felt like she was in a zoo. Look at that child. He's playing his strange music and wearing his crazy clothes. His crazy clothes remind me, though, of what my daddy used to wear because he could not match. But at nighttime, when the teenager was asleep, the mother opened the door to his room and she would crawl across the floor. And she'd look over the side of his bed. She peeked like this. And if he really was asleep, she would pick up that great big boy and she would rock him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And when she rocked him, she would sing, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. Now look at this mommy. She has glasses like Miss Angela has. Look. And he was a teenager. And that's when she got her glasses. Guess what, boys and girls? When Joshua and Becca were in their teens, that's when Miss Angela got her glasses too. And that teenager, he grew and he grew and he grew and he grew until he was a grown-up man. And he left home and he got a house across town. Look, he's leaving his mommy's house and moving into his own place. Here he goes. But sometimes, on dark nights, the mother got into her car, and she drove across town. Look, boys and girls, she has a ladder on the top of her car. And she's driving across town in the darkest of nights. And look what happens. And if all the lights were out in her son's house, she would open his bedroom window and crawl across the floor and look up over the side of his bed. And if that great big man was really asleep, she would pick him up and rock him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she would sing, I love you forever. I'm not even showing you the picture yet. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. Look at this little old lady mama rocking that big grown-up man back and forth and back and forth. She was a spry little old lady, wasn't she, to climb up that window? If you climbed up a window and climbed in our house late at night, you might get shot. I ain't even kidding. All right. So nobody do that, okay? Now, and when that mother, when she got older and older and older. Because see, as the boy was growing bigger and bigger, the mommy was getting older and older. And one day she called up her son and she said, you better come see me because I'm very old and I'm very sick. So her son came to see her, and when he came in the door, she tried to sing a song. She sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. But see, she couldn't finish that song because she was too sick. And this is a picture of the son when he got the call. And look, he's much older. He's got gray in his hair, so he's an older gentleman now. He's got his own family now, and he lives with his wife and children. But that son, when he heard from that mommy, he went inside her room, and he picked her up, and he rocked her back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this time he sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mommy you'll be. Look at that. He's rocking his mommy back and forth. And when that son came home that night, he stood at the top of the stairs for a very long time just thinking. And then he went, well, I probably ought to show you the picture of when he went to the top of the stairs. And they had a cat. I wonder if they have a dog anywhere. He's at the top of the stairs. He's just thinking about his mommy. But you know what? His mommy taught him a lot of good stuff. Because when he went to where his baby girl was, He went in, he picked her up out of the cradle and listened. Then he went into the room where his very new baby daughter was sleeping, and he picked her up in his arms, and very slowly he rocked her back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And while he rocked her, he sang, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." That mommy taught that boy how to love his own children. And boys and girls, I want you to know that your mommy and your daddy love you very much. That not only do they love you, they like you. And that's important. Because sometimes when we don't behave right, it's hard to like somebody. So we always need to behave, and we need to obey our parents. And you know what's really amazing is not only does your mommy and daddy love you and like you, God loves you and he likes you even more than your parents do. So boys and girls, as you're getting ready for Easter, I know that we're not going to be able to be in big church this Sunday or even children's church because of what's going on in our world. But I want you to remember that Jesus loves you so much. And even at home, you can celebrate that he loves you. I love you too, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. And I will come back again, and I'll read you another story. And I hope you have a good night. You obey your mommy and daddy. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.